So what did you do in Ghana?
We worked at a school. We basically played with the kids and taught them during the afternoon. Anything from science, math, any kind of normal grade school subject. And then in the mornings we would actually build bricks from scratch. So we had cement, sand, and water, and we'd build bricks so that we could help create a cafeteria for them, as opposed to the primitive setup of chicken coops, basically, with bags of spaghetti and bags of fresh water. So it was a big adjustment.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright.
So what was the biggest cultural adjustment between the two?
The biggest
worlds?
cultural adjustment, I think, was just kind of some of the accepted differences between men and women there. I think it's pretty progressive compared to a lot of other African countries, but the idea that women still, wear skirts, cook, do all the things that a traditional housewife would do, as opposed to all the women's rights that we have here. So I think that was kind of different for me, especially coming from a family where my mom's the main breadwinner.
Yeah.
So I think that was big. And I think, honestly, it's not really a cultural shock, but we went to the slave forts. Honestly, the history books or what you see on TV can't even do justice to witnessing and actually seeing these massive, massive forts and seeing where all these slaves were held captive. And I think it was just really shocking to me, as well as the people I was with, just to see these terrible spaces and to really kind of come to grips with what the slaves had to go through during their time here.
So was that the biggest surprise you'd say while you were there?
The biggest surprise was honestly how happy the people were there. I think you come in there and you hear, first of all, people group all these countries in Africa together as one country. It's one country, it's Africa. Africa's poor, Africa's starving. Well, no. There's a lot of different countries within Africa. Each of them is different. But the people are just so happy. I mean, you go and it's agricultural and fishing towns, and they don't have much, but they're the happiest people you'll ever meet. And I think that was really incredible for me. The video you're about to see is from the greeting the children gave us when we came to an AIDS orphanage.
So, on like a lighter note, what was your favorite part about it? Was that?
My favorite part was just working with the kids, between teaching them, playing with them, teaching them, American football, and just getting to know other people within the group. I think going in with an open mind, and you're gonna meet new people, and just these kids they're just all over you. They've never seen white people, or yavus as they call them there. They've never seen people like you before, and so the fact that you want to come in and play with them and just give them that personalized attention, I think meant a lot to them, and I think I learned just as much from them as hopefully they did from me. Just that, the time that you spend, between the school and then working in the various AIDS orphanages, that we were in, just seeing that a little bit of time with the kid can really just make a lasting impact. So I think that really made a big impact on me.
Give me freedom, give me fire.
But was that challenging? Like, what were some of the challenges you had to go through while you were there?
I think the challenges were just, you're building bricks with your bare hands every day. So by the end of, after 2 or 3 days, we had gloves, but our hands are just, you're scarred, you're blistered everywhere, your hands are bleeding. And I think that was really, and when you're working with, raw wooden shovels. So I mean, that part of it was tough in a physical way. But I think what was tough in an emotional way was just seeing these kids in AIDS orphanages whose parents had either had died, couldn't take care of them, had left them, and they're just the cutest kids, and they're just so full of energy and life and laughter, and I think that was just tough. And then seeing all the differences in terms of classrooms. I mean, we have probably 18 kids at Swickley is a big class. So to go in a classroom where there's 50 kids, 2 kids at each desk, and take a second with a kid that you've never even met before and just show him that he's loved, show him that you're there for him and no other reason, and play with them, give your time to them, and just, I can't really even put it into words. It's just the things that we saw there. And I have one story I want to close with, actually, that I forgot to mention. We went to an orphanage one day. It was on this beautiful beach. It had been started by 2 American missionaries from North Carolina. And they went down there and they said, we want to have an orphanage for child slaves. So they were looking in the area to kind of see, because they knew there were child slaves, but they hadn't really, it was their first time in Ghana, they didn't really know where to find them. So they went up on the biggest lake there, Lake Volta, one day, and they found out that there's a huge problem there of child slaves being used by fishermen to go and retrieve their nets. And we're sitting there hearing this story, and I'm just thinking, what kind of conditions did these kids live under? And they said that these kids would dive down, get the nets, and if they came up without the nets, they'd be paddled on the head by their master. And the kids are sold to these fishermen because they come from families that have a lot of kids. They're not very well off, and the fisherman says, "Hey, I'll give you, the American equivalent of $15 for your child." And most people never see their children again. And they go about the age of 3, and like I said, when they don't get these, when there's any kind of a mistake, whether they're not getting the nets or something goes wrong, they're paddled. And oftentimes these kids can be hit so hard that they're knocked unconscious and they'll drown. 6 years old.
Wow.
And I think the whole time I'm hearing this, I'm just thinking, how big of a problem can this be? How much is going on out there, not just in Ghana, but that we just have no idea about. And it really hit me hard.
But then we learned that the 8 children that have already been taken in there, have been rehabilitated both mentally and physically. There's 8 of them. And the man who runs the orphanage plans to take in more and more former child slaves from this lake region as time goes on.